back after talking about White Place Part 2. Yes, I highly recommend you go see that, especially if you like the first one. You can't go wrong. Now time for Unwanted Politics. Okay, big thing on the Twitters all over the place is Kink at Pride. And again, I'm going to give another unwanted cis male take. My take is, who gives a fuck? I mean, to elaborate on that a little bit more, it just is ultimately comes down to everyone is just looking at one video, and especially because there was one video of their I'll see if I can find it. I could not when I was trying to set this shit up, but one thing that kept coming up was this one video of these like people who I think were doing like puppy or dog, I don't know, dude. They're in like fucking latex and doing dog shit, okay? And there was a kid who was like petting them or whatever, and then, oh my god, everything blew up, and then all these people who were like, ooh, free spirit, everything became Puritans. And my simple thing is, yeah, I have been to Pride weeks, I'm, I personally don't give a fuck what you like, what you do, as long as you're not harming other people or you're not including children into it, I don't care. And you'll be like, oh, so you're probably like, oh, so you think that this is a bad thing. No. At the end of the day, guys, things are bad up until the point they get bad. I know that's so fucking simple, but I feel like so many people need to hear it. The simple truth is, guess what? The moment a child or an adult begins to do anything inappropriate with a child at a Pride event, that's the moment it becomes bad. But that does not mean people can't do what the fuck they want at Pride. As long as, again, it's not illegal, they're not harming other people, and they're not involving children in the acts that are sexual. At the end of the day, even that one video in which you have the dog, the human people pretending like they're dogs and just like circling around, and the chick and the little kid like pets them. Guess what? She didn't do anything. They didn't do anything to her. It's not like they did anything sexual. So my whole thing is, why is this an issue to begin with? And why do so many people need to have a take on it? Like, if it comes to a point where it's rampant news, like every Pride event, which there isn't, there's not this widespread thing, every Pride event, where there's a bunch of illegal sexual abuse happening. And if that's the case, then absolutely, then we need to reconsider it. Maybe we do need to have, certain structures in place to avoid it. But that's not the case. So until that becomes the case, then my simple take is, why are we fucking upset about this? And like, yeah, here's some things that people are saying. But this is incredibly weird to me because I immediately think of most of Western media and how it's built around male gaze, and the women have to be sufficiently attractive to straight men, and then we dress them in as little as possible. Again, I don't really care. I don't honestly agree with this, people. Like, yes, I understand where the argument's coming from in terms of, hey, why are people being Puritans and, upset about sexualization when it comes to Pride, but don't care about like the Super Bowl commercials or commercials. And I'm simply at the person, I do not care. Yes, can we have conversations about unrealistic body standards and for both men and women and people in general? Yes, absolutely, we can have those conversations. But at the end of the day, sex sells, and no matter what economic structure you have, sex is going to sell because people are horny motherfuckers, and it's just going to sell. So ultimately, what I can get at with this argument is like, yes, I get where they're coming from. They're trying to point out the hypocrisy, and I'm all for pointing out hypocrisy, but it really, really doesn't matter. And that's the whole thing, is that like, whether it be on a commercial, whether it be a random chick with her boobs out walking down the street, it should not goddamn matter. Who cares? As long as, again, if that woman with her boobs hanging out, if she goes and touches someone unwarranted, or she touches a child or whatever, that is at the point in which it becomes a bad thing. But up until that point, I don't care. Your kid's seen boobs. Your kid's going to, if your kid's 5, guess what? The minute he gets on the internet, they're going to see boobs. The minute they are like 10 years old and they are just like out and about looking at magazines, on the internet randomly, guess what? They're going to see boobs. I do not think there's any reason to try to shield your kids from, again, the human body. And again, it comes back to the minute it becomes illegal, the minute it becomes sexual abuse, that's where the issue comes. Not before then, As a queer woman, and another one that says, queer woman and as a mom, I don't understand this no kink at Pride discourse. The kids will be fine. Okay. Blah, blah. Same thing. I agree with her. Pride would not be Pride without kink. I'm fully 100% in support of kink at Pride. How's that for a fucking sidestep? Charlotte deliberately sidesteps the main issue of a discourse, which is kink at Pride, by never mentioning kink, so basically saying nothing, which is fine. It's unproductive discourse anyway, but come on. Okay, I gotta say this shit now. I just don't even know why this even fucking matters. At the end of the day, if you are not harming anyone, we shouldn't be talking about this. If you're not harming anyone, we should not be talking about this. I really think that is all that needs to be said on this issue. And I get that people are worried about things becoming, things moving away from what the point of Pride is to some people. Okay, I'm going to say that. To some people, Pride is just about celebrating the LGBTQ plus community. And that's it. And some people think that while yes, LGBTQ plus is absolutely about sexuality. It's about people's sexualities. They're that I don't know how you can separate those, but it is about sexual liberation as well, because back in the day, if you were gay or if you were homosexual or whatever, bisexual, doesn't fucking matter. You were ostracized and in some cases killed, and in some cultures flat out killed, or arrested or whatever. So I get that it is both about celebrating the hardships and the ability to still be happy and celebrate through all the hardships, but it's also about the sexuality, and kink is a part of that. I do understand if it becomes just a, BDSM, kink, furry, whatever, and that becomes the main focus of it, I can understand people being upset, frustrated. But at this point, that's not an issue. From the ones I've gone on, yes. I've been to the Pride marches and Pride days I've been to, yes. Has that been a part of it? Sure. It's not even remotely been the majority. It's mainly people just having fun, dancing, and like loud music. Like that's what it is. But I think that one of the issues that people do not talk enough about is, guess what? What the main issue with Pride is now is the corporatization of it. You have fucking Pepsi doing Pride, all these fucking companies who would not have done anything to help gay people or the LGBTQ plus community even a fucking decade or two ago, are now like, oh man, this Pepsi logo is doing something. And yes, do some of them help fund like charities? Yes, most of them do not though. And it's just a way to corporatize it. If anything, I would say that's the bigger concern that people should be talking about. And again, I know I'm not part of the community, but ultimately what I'm trying to get at is that having an imbalance of the imbalance in the coverage, imbalance in terms of like corporatizing it and moving it away from the history. The reason I bring this up is because you can look at the civil rights movement. That's been corporatized to death, And again, MLK was someone who both wanted equal rights, but also wanted workers to have better working conditions. He wanted better pay. He wanted billionaires and millionaires to pay their fair share. He saw the creep of big business and monopolization starting to, creep back in to America, and he was against all of those things. But he's been corporate washed, whitewashed, whatever you want to say. I like to say corporate washed because, plenty of white history has been corporate washed and not whitewashed. So I think that's something that I think we should be kind of talking more about instead of saying whitewashed, which I think actually alienates people. We should be saying corporate washed because that is what's happening. The top 1% and large corporate powers, they try to wipe away the meaning and the fangs of a lot of these movements. And I think that's one major issue that needs to be addressed because, we are actually, I think, doing more harm to these movements by allowing these big businesses to basically set the message and to make money off of it without actually pushing for bigger liberation. Because again, a lot of trans kids, for example, are having high poverty rates, high, rates of suicide, but none of these companies are really trying to help them. And again, it's because you don't even need to target your help. Target your help to make it so that everyone can get paid better. Everyone has more rights and say and power at their jobs. So if someone is being a piece of shit to them at their job and it's because they're trans, then they have more power to retaliate and not worry about losing their job or, losing income. There are multiple things that you can do, but what I'm just trying to get across is that we should not allow this whole kink shit to move away from what's truly important. And that is people being able to celebrate who they are without fear and without huge corporate entities trying to make money and to look good for them, which again, they weren't there in the 80s. They weren't there in the 90s, and how most of these companies weren't even there back in 2010. It wasn't until later, mid this decade, that many of these companies were there. And even then, even with all that, you have companies like Disney who like queer bait every 2 seconds, but don't actually have an out-and-out gay character because their bottom line could potentially be hurt. So ultimately, it comes down to we should be focusing on allowing people to live the best lives they can without worrying about, who it might be hurting or focusing too much. Obviously we should focus on who it's hurting, but we spend too much time focusing on the bare bones bullshit that does not matter and all this like side shit that just distracts us from the main thing that matters, which is people who are part of the LGBTQ plus community deserve to express themselves. And the minute a child or there's any sexual assault or whatever happens, that's when it becomes the issue. And that doesn't put a huge issue on the whole Pride event. That means that whoever that specific individual who did that bad thing to that child, to that person, they get shitted on. It's just simple as that. And I just think that these conversations are just unproductive, and it just shows that there is a Puritan nature even amongst people who consider themselves liberal or on the left. And at the end of the day, we need to get rid of that shit because it doesn't matter,